We have a super fun show tonight. Joining us is going to be Brad Olsen. Welcome. He is a world explorer, an award-winning author, and he happens to believe in the existence of aliens. All right. Brad, thank you so much for joining us. And Thom, thank you for hosting this and having us here. And Frank, great to see you again. So, where do we get started, Brad? I think that, again, why do you believe in the existence of aliens?
Hey there, Heather, Thom, Frank. Thanks for having me on the show. Really pleasure to speak with you all. Why do I believe in aliens? Well, first of all, we've all known for a while, and as I've been saying a long time in the UFO community, that disclosure comes from the bottom up. And that is, all of us already get it. We don't need the government to come out and say, "Oh yeah, we have had UFOs since the Roswell crash," because we already know it. And so now it's just finding out how much they know and what they've been doing with that technology for the last close to 100 years.
I think we have some similarities here. Thom, you have an incident, and Brad, I think you actually had a sighting.
A streak of light that broke up into these perfect square blips, witnessed by other people. We all agreed we saw the same thing.
Those sightings are so like more than just surreal. I mean, I was thinking about like when you saw that, were you scared?
In fact, myself and the two other people I was with immediately, we fell to the ground laughing, just like, "Oh God, you just see that? That was amazing."
I couldn't take my eyes off of it, right? And it changes you forever. It changes your beliefs. It changes so much, and it starts to mold you and take you in a little different direction. And my whole life, and I think everything I've ever done, my career, the whole thing had changed due to our family's incident because I was young and I was influenced, quite a bit by it. What
Well,
was your take on this subject prior to having front row seats?
So, yeah, I've always had a fascination with the paranormal and extraterrestrials. And as an artist, I'm an illustrator. I just came across some of my early drawings. And I remember the very first drawing I did of an alien, kind of like a gray alien, but with Spock ears and wearing a US astronaut suit. And I taped it up to my first desk when I was in grade school. So I was already drawing pictures of aliens at a very young age and just kind of always wondering, boy, there's got to be intelligent life out
That's
there.
crazy you said that because when I was in fourth grade, there was this mass sighting, the Berkshire's UFO incident, which is basically our families and a couple of people that are riding on my coattails. Anyway, I drew what I saw and I had taped it to the chalkboard in the back of our class.
My mother's always, believed in different things and had an interest, and she was always the one that watched Ancient Aliens. And so that's how I got into watching that. And I know you used to be a contributor.
Yeah, I was on a couple episodes, and I'm friends with Giorgio Tsoukalos, the creator, and David Hatcher Childress. In fact, I was driving a convertible, a rental from San Francisco, and picked up David Childress and his wife Jen Bohm, and we went to the Book Expo America in LA. And they said, "Oh, you want to the end of the show on Sunday? We're going to meet Giorgio. Do you mind picking him up? He was in town." And I said, "Sure." And so while we were driving down Sunset Boulevard, he pitched the show. He says, "I just met with the producers of Prometheus Entertainment." And he was mostly talking to David, but as I said, I've been on a couple episodes. And he said, it's a go. And the very first pilot of Ancient Aliens was on the Crystal Skulls. And in fact, we are going to see Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood
I've
Boulevard
been
that
there.
night.
Yeah, I've actually, there used to be a bar right next to it called Cat and the Fiddle.
Yeah.
So you actually knew Giorgio before the show ever landed.
Yeah. So in my book, Secrets of Antarctica, I've got several possible UFOs in the ice. This is from Spartan 1 and Spartan 2 that went into this black basalt UFO and reported to my colleague Linda Moulton Howe. who gave me permission to quote her and use that in the book. And then I've got other pictures, and I've been on TV shows like The Truth Is Out There and Book of Secrets, where they'll show some of these UFOs under the ice. They're very round and cylindrical. They look to me like they're discs sticking out of the ice. Here's one.
Yeah.
And it even casts a shadow. So it's even extending out a little bit. And this is near the Polish base called A.B. Dabrowski Polar Station. And it's only a few miles away. And a lot of these I give the GPS coordinates because I really want other people to be researchers of their own. Go to Google Earth, check it out, and make up their own mind. Don't just take my word for it. But I think the best evidence of a craft under the ice is this one, which is on the the German New Schwabenland claim, and it's a seasonal base called Conan. And so you can see there's like a giant machine there, and there's a runway and snowmobile tracks from the runway and then out to this thing. And then they were doing an excavation in 2013. So you go on the Wayback Machine, 2013, with these GPS coordinates. They're digging this thing out. And I like it when I can get confirming data points because the Farsight Institute used that GPS coordinate, and they went there with their remote viewers. And they came back independently and said that it was some kind of defunct, massive craft under the ice that was built for a very giant species of extraterrestrials, I suppose, much bigger than any human is. So I guess they have to be.
What's the size of it? What would you project to be?
It's about a 1/4 mile long from what was sticking out. And they said that's just the beginning of it, that it goes much deeper and much further afield. So it's about 3 miles across. And it's not the only one. So that one I showed you from Spartan 1 and 2, that one is also very huge. And so supposedly there are 3 motherships in Antarctica.
That's
and they've
what
known about
my next
this.
question.
Yeah. And they were nicknamed Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria way back in the 70s by the
perfect,
NSA.
man. Perfect.
Yeah.
The original, So let me ask you this then. Do you think, or I'm sure the conversations come up, that this happened long before the Ice Age, that something happened and they got trapped there? That's why they couldn't leave? This goes back thousands or even millions of years ago.
So in the book, I have a chapter called Map of the Ancient Sea Kings, which was a book by Charles Hapgood.
I guess I should just read the book, right?
Yeah, you should. But here in Hapgood, he features, it's even on the cover of his book, you guys might have heard the Piri-Reis map, which was drawn in the year 1513, and it shows Antarctica free of ice. And my colleague Graham Hancock, he featured it in his Ancient Apocalypse series on Netflix, saying that even in the liner notes on the Piri-Reis map, there's all this writing by Piri-Reis. He says that he collected the information from source maps that dated all the way back to the Library of Alexandria and the time of Ptolemy. So clearly, the ancients had a much wider grasp of the geography of the planet, including what is the landmass around Antarctica and Antarctica itself before the ice. That's a great question, Thom, because it would seem that they had some kind of knowledge of the world before the last ice age.
Hey, Brad, I was watching some of your YouTube videos, and you had mentioned it, Antarctica had some underground pockets where there was like possibly some fresh water and possibly animal life and stuff. Do you believe it's possible that there might be some under ice, underground civilization?
The big news was they were doing the scan of the Giza Plateau, and they found all these chambers and passageways and a whole world down there. Much in the same way, they've been doing that in Antarctica over the last few seasons using these very advanced scanning devices and finding, as you said, lakes, rivers that flow to the ocean. And I should point out that Antarctica is the most volcanically active continent in the world. So you have 14 active volcanoes down there, and you have 93 known geothermal features. So all of them are putting out heat, which would have the propensity to create these large under ice domes, but also feed life forms. Because, at the bottom of the ocean, wherever there's a heat vent, even in the most unlikely, improbable, greatest depths of the ocean, if there's a heat vent, there's all kind of life around it. And so this is the same kind of phenomenon that's going on in Antarctica. And that's what's so exciting about every season. There are new findings about what might be under there, including life forms that have yet to be identified or even seen by humans.
Do you think that that could also be the case under the water, like in the deep sea? We know of certain animals, but could there be something closer to a human form?
Well, not really a human form. It's more of microbial life,
Mm.
or kind of like bacteria, or just algae type life, very, very
Okay.
simple life forms. But the point is, the deepest depths of the ocean and what's under the ice are really the final frontiers, the last explored portions of this planet. And with it, perhaps new forms of life that we haven't yet discovered.
A riddle wrapped in mystery.
Within an
I stole that from you, man. I stole. Yeah.
So what's the
Okay.
name of the book? It's Secrets of Antarctica. When did it come out?
The Untold History of the Ice Continent. It just was released on January 1st. In the book, got really breaking, here we go, back to the book, but really breaking evidence of these maps that have just been recovered and released in the last couple of years by a Russian journalist named Nikolai Subotin. And he got these. So after the Cold War, when the Soviet Union collapsed in the early 1990s, you could show up in Moscow with a suitcase full of hard currency or, say, gold and silver, and people from the KGB would say, well, what are you looking for? You say, oh, I want alien autopsy video. Okay, here you go. I want a UFO crash video. Yeah, we got those. Here you go. And now all those are out on the internet. But it was also the golden age of Antarctica information coming out. And that is everything the Soviets gained from the Germans at the end of World War II. Because remember, they were the first force to get into Berlin. So they got the lion's share of intelligence out of the Army, Navy, and Air Force, Luftwaffe, but also the Ahnenerbe Society, which was the occultic secret society of Nazi Germany. And they were collecting artifacts from all around the world and going down to Antarctica pre-war, where they were navigating these routes under the ice well deep into the continent of Antarctica. And if we consider what Antarctica looks like without the ice, there are fjords, for a lack of a better term, that go for hundreds of miles underneath the ice. And here it is. The continental landmass is really just a fraction of what it appears on maps with the ice around it. And so my research assistant, he plotted the course that the Germans gave that is reprinted in the book as well. And they claim to have, and this is in the German writing, this is the original instructions to Agartha under the ice. And so he plotted that route with those exact 52.6 meters. We all know how the Germans are, very exact. That's what they mean. And it's within 100 miles of the South Pole. And all the intelligence came out of Soviet Union when it collapsed. Everything from Admiral Byrd finding the hole in the ice near the South Pole, everything points to an advanced civilization under the ice near the South Pole. So, Heather, when you asked me whether I believe in UFOs or aliens, well, how about a ET base right here under the ice in Antarctica? I mean,
Yes. Because they had the bell too. There's a lot of talk about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And
I know that's in your book too.
it is. With an illustration. You got it, Tom. Very perceptive.
Talk about the bell, because I don't think Heather knows about that.
Mm-mm. That's interesting to me. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, this thing, not only could it travel into space, but it was also a time machine. So it was called Die Glock, is the German word for the bell, because it does have the shape of a bell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it mysteriously vanished at the end of World War II with Hans Kammler. He's working on developing backward engineering a lot of this technology. And he also disappeared around the same time as Die Glock did. In Poland, there is still the site of where they tested Die Glock. See, they had to chain it down or cable it down, because when it started activating, it was like kind of bouncing all over the place till they knew how to control it and fly it up out of this building. And there's these micronations that they set up that are still in existence. So Germany, at the end of the war, they get all this money out. They take the gold down to South America and some of it to Antarctica, but they could spend it in South America. And they bought these massive tracts of land, which I call micronations. And I had a discussion with the late John Lear. He's the one that coined that term. And he even says like Area 51 in the Nellis Air Force Base is in actuality a micronation. Even the president can't go to Area 51. And so even the president of Chile or Argentina or Brazil could not go to some of these micronations. And they got out all their backward engineered technology. So all the disk technology that they had from downed UFOs in Germany and Italy pre-World War II that they were working on, they were doing their own line, a whole fleet of several different prototypes of UFOs.
Mimic comes, is the word that's mentioned more so than anything else. That we can't really back engineer a lot of these things because we can't understand this, we can't understand that. These materials are not something we've seen before. You know what I'm saying? And so we've been able to mimic a lot. So we've gotten the technology to a degree. We can't actually reverse engineer it, exactly, but we're able to mimic it. What would you say to that?
Yeah, and that's what alien reproduction vehicles
that's in the
are.
book.
Of course.
It's a graphic for that, Tom.
And there's a graphic for that. And these are all the variations of the Vril and the Honeyboo craft that they'd made. You can see there's about a dozen different types. That's great you're in touch with Burchett, because he's really leading the charge.
I've known Tim when he was mayor. My father was mayor, so we kind of had my father was a politician. My father took our case before the United Nations in 1992. And by the way, Linda Morton Howe was also there. So was Stanton Friedman.
Cool.
Yeah. He's actually a really genuine person. I mean, he's a super nice guy. And he's one of the few, I think, that I really admire, because he's not doing this for any other reason than he has a personal interest and really a love for the subject and the topic. And it's good to see. Luna, I've been on the phone with in Tampa, and looks like we're being prepped a little bit for the UAP hearings in the future. I was just on with Benny Johnson show, and
cool.
Kara Kaplan, booked me from Fox. And so our case is getting prepped, I guess. I've been, he was sitting across the desk from me. He said, Tom, you're going to have 5 minutes to answer this. Make sure that you leave a comment or something that's interest, so there will be a follow-up later, that kind of thing. So he prepped me a little bit.
Well, why is there a rabbit over your shoulder? That would be a question I ask.
Oh, do you see the rabbit? Is he
Oh,
running around?
Rabbit, yeah.
It's a really large rabbit. There he is.
Yeah, they're huge.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was one of
yours
those
is still
things.
growing. Yours is a
it's
puppy
only 15
still.
weeks old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I had a tiger in Florida. I had a serval. I had a Savannah cat, a wolf. So I went to look at him. I wasn't planning on bringing them home, but I'm looking at the parents, right? And they were like little bears. I mean, they were huge, right? Because I walked up behind them, and you see the back of these rabbits, right? And I'm like, holy shit. And so I'm like holding one up. I'm like, my God, right? I'm like, of course I want one. And they don't bark. They use a litter box. They come when you call them. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'll take the biggest one you have. Yeah. He's muscly, he's strong, and he's got an attitude. Even an
Yeah,
appetite.
recently in Austin, I think I had rattlesnake and rabbit
Oh,
sausage.
oh, no.
It was delicious. But I couldn't tell which flavor was which because one it was in a sausage with seasoning and it was mixed, and so it's like I couldn't tell which was rabbit and which was rattlesnake. But
We're talking about sandwiches and birchet and
Well, I
rabbits.
would say,
you've talked about the Bermuda Triangle as well. Do you have some unique perspectives on what you believe is going on there?
yeah. This is what are known as paranormal hotspots, where it just seems like the veil is thin and crypto creatures can come through, like at the Skinwalker Ranch out here in Utah, and that's what the Bermuda Triangle is too. That there seems to be a tear or fragment in space and time, and ships and planes go missing and then pop out 40 years later.
Question? That's a
How's
question.
that hand up?
Mark and I haven't talked, who produces Secrets of Skinwalker, was talking about possibly doing a show at my park because the people get nauseated. People their phones get affected. They say when they leave, their navigation systems get screwed up. They don't feel well. They see things in the woods. It's just like there's so much there. It's like it's more than just one thing, right? It seems to be a collective. Do you think that there's just a tear in space and time where anything that has the ability to travel interdimensionally, just all of a sudden the window's open?
Yeah, and that last point, Tom, I think is really salient, is that they have interdimensional abilities. So you know how we've always been conditioned to say, "Oh, look to the skies! They're coming from the skies. They're coming down." Those are extraterrestrials from outside our planet. What about interterrestrials right below our feet, as we were saying about Agartha and what's under the ice in Antarctica? But the thirdly is ultra terrestrials, and that is entities that are able to phase out in and out of our reality, that are not necessarily of third dimensional reality like we are, locked in to this third dimension reality that we live in, but they can come and go. And that's what Bigfoot is. So Bigfoot has the ability to basically disappear themselves interdimensionally. And this has also been observed at Skinwalker Ranch, has quite a few Bigfoot and other cryptid sightings, that they can come and go either through natural portals or portals that are created. And it's so weird that they'll just appear. And if it's at night, it'll be daytime through the portal. If it's nighttime, it'll be daytime, vice versa. And they basically pop out and then just go running across the field at Skinwalker over to my friend's ranch called Space Wolf Research. And there are corpses of animals between the two. So they come out and they're seemingly very hungry, and they'll just catch and kill the first animal they can get.
So, Tom, do you think that there's any type of maybe a battle between different species or entities that might be coming and going? Do you think that a little bit of what we might be seeing might be, an escape, and then someone's followed, and maybe that there's some type of a conflict between?
Yeah, there is, and they don't like to be directly confronted, or they don't want to be captured. And one time they saw this light come in, open up, a cryptid creature comes out, and they let their dogs out. The dogs go running over to it, and they just hear this horrendous sound of the dogs crying and then silence. Next morning, they went out and found the dogs just totally mutilated. So if they're confronted, they will fight back. Sherman, after that dog incident, sold the ranch to Bigelow, who was very into paranormal activities, and he even built some towers that are still out there for motion detector cameras and observation. And then it was Bigelow who sold the Skinwalker Ranch to Brandon Fugel, who then now produces that show about Skinwalker Ranch on the History Channel. I think it's the number one show, and it's
Good
renewed
mark, yeah.
for season after season.
I had a recurring dream as a young adult. Every now and then, I mean, and it was often, I would have a portal dream, and I would like you have to swim and go underwater, and I don't really like being underwater very long, so that's odd. But I would have to go underwater and like hold your breath for a long time and go around areas, and I always came out in another area, and sometimes it was like kind of like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe Chronicles of Narnia. It was like through a closet into another world. And I'm always wondering if I just got that in my head from reading the book. But I had a recurring portal dream for years. So I've always been really interested in the portal issue.
Here we are. We're all on a paranormal, basically a paranormal UFO flavored podcast or vodcast, right? And we all have an interest for a reason. So maybe deep down inside, we kind of know they're not just dreams.
Very eloquent, Thom.
Yeah.
Well, you just bring out the best of me, Heather.
This is your fantasy. This is reality.
Usually, when you go to bed, you put your head down and you're there for a few seconds. I mean, you're laying there, okay, I'm going to bed now. But it was like as soon as I put my head down on that pillow, it was like instantaneous, like I felt a tap on my shoulder, and that was it. Hey, I was watching some of your videos earlier, and you had mentioned New Swabia. Can you tell us a little bit about
Well, what do you know, Heather? It's in the book. Whole chapter on the Nazis in Antarctica. A whole bunch of maps and illustrations of this is New Swabia. This is a region in Antarctica. It's called Queen Maud Land now, but you can see the name. And Base 211 is like our Area 51. It's a region on a map. They found a way to go under the ice. They were looking for passage down there, and some say that they were given a defunct reptilian base that they only just had to go find and then refurbish for their own uses. And so that's what they did. And that's what Admiral Byrd was tasked to do during Operation High Jump, is seek and destroy Base 211 and recover any UFO craft. And on the cover of my book is our reproduction of the Battle of High Jump, when those UFO craft came up out of the water off the coast of New Swabia, and they were basically impenetrable to our fire. So it was a very one-sided battle. And a lot of that information about the Battle of High Jump, or it's also called the Battle of Antarctica, came from former Soviet Union, that they were watching the Germans down there too, as were the Brits were spying on them during World War II, because they cracked the Enigma machine. And so they could pick up the transmissions to the submarines. And they knew that they were bringing down tons of material and personnel and stocking up down there, and not only setting up military bases, but building a science city in another location called New Berlin. And I've even located a third colony within New Schwabenland called the Thule Refuge. So I've been able to pinpoint 3 distinct locations where they set up base of operations. And by all intents and purposes, multi-generational Germans are still down there. The other another chapter at the end is called about the black goo, that what the Falkland Wars was really all about. And a lot of people don't know, this is a map from Wikipedia. During the Falkland Wars in 1982, it broke off into 2 groups. And one of the groups fought the well-publicized battle in the Falklands. The other went to retrieve the black goo, intelligent living organism that give you these superhuman abilities. So they're trying to backward engineer that stuff too. And so I would like to see our Star Trek future in our lifetimes, and I think it's attainable.